Welcome back to Philadelphia Magazine's ThinkFest 2020. I'm Tom McGrath, editor of Philadelphia. Our conversation this afternoon is all about the future of restaurants in Philadelphia, with chef-restaurateur Marcie Turney being interviewed by Philadelphia Magazine's food editor, Alex Tewfik. Special thanks to our sponsors for this event, including ThinkFest's presenting sponsor, Bank of America, as well as St. Joseph's University, T0 Group, and Paperboy Media Group. If you've missed any of our earlier conversations this week, feel free to go to phillymag.com/thinkfest and check out the videos there. And please join us tomorrow and Friday for additional ThinkFest conversations, including our interview tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock with Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney. I also invite you to join us next month for a special virtual wellness event, Be Well Philly Fest. You can find more information at phillymag.com/bewellphilly. Now, let's talk about restaurants. Enjoy the conversation.
Hi, my name is Alex Tewfik. I'm the food editor at Philadelphia Magazine. I'm here with Marcie Turney. Marcie is, Marcie, she is the chef half of Safran Turney Hospitality, which is the restaurant group that brought us Barbuzzo and Little Nona's and Bud and Maryland's and Hamanera and all sorts of restaurants on 13th Street in Center City that sort of reshaped the Philadelphia dining landscape as we know it today. Thank you so much for joining us, Marcie.
Thanks for having me.
A lot to get to, so I'm going to just jump right in.
Sure.
The last time I saw your actual face, it was over social media, and it was the days following the citywide shutdown of restaurants in Philadelphia. And that was obviously, it was a very emotional reaction to it, and it was probably, I assume, one of the hardest moments of your life or your career. And it's strange to talk about this stuff because, people ask me all the time, how are you? And I'm like, I don't even know where to begin or how to answer that question because this world doesn't really make sense right now. Everything's sort of crumbling and it's insane and it's just a really difficult thing to deal with. So my first question to you is, how are you keeping sane right now? How are you keeping a level head? What are you doing to stay busy?
The busy part is obviously no problem.
Really? Okay.
We have 4 of our 5 restaurants open for to-go. It is different every day. It literally every single day is different. It has been going back to that day. It was hard. We had to lay off about 250 employees. And even at that point, I thought it was only for 2 weeks or 1 month, maximum. So to be here 3 months later is absolutely insane. We had a meeting, a bunch of restaurateurs, the day before the shutdown. We had some inside to the shutdown. So we all got into one restaurant and we met and it was crazy. It's just, we're all in different situations. I'm looking around the room and I see one chef and his wife is pregnant. Well, they can't do to go. And there's, restaurateurs who have large restaurants and investors. There's the single restaurant owner that barely has a staff now. And then there's us and we have restaurants and we have no investors. This is our hard work. And leaving that meeting, we were like, we're going to do to go. We're going to figure out what that means. And literally every day it means something different. Where it's just like you've opened all of your restaurants over again. And now Friday we can have outdoor seating. That's a whole other different restaurant.
So it's so interesting because it seems like there are times where I look at what happened and it seems as though there was a restaurant hating evil genius who came up with coronavirus. Because it was the coronavirus was so poised to take down the restaurant industry specifically. And it did a lot more damage than that, but it was the restaurants in terms of business, it was devastating to restaurants, right?
Yes.
What it did was it took it down and then unearthed all these flaws and it exposed all these bugs in the system. And it was a really wild time. So could you walk me through those days following the shutdown? So you said you had to lay off your staff. What exactly goes into shutting down an entire restaurant group? Before you pivoted to takeout, what did you do with all the food? What did you do? How did you even break it to your staff? It's a really traumatic experience.
we went around, Val and I went around to each restaurant and told everyone that we are closing tomorrow, that's what, the government has mandated. We hope this isn't going to be long. We think it's going to be 2 weeks. That's what we all thought. It was so crazy. And then we knew we took a couple days off, and we knew we wanted to get into this takeout situation. But in Maryland's is our largest restaurant. I had 2 of my chefs that are like, we are here to do this. And so I can space people out appropriately. That building, we actually share a basement under Nona's and Bud and Maryland's under that entire hotel. So it's a very large space. Okay. So we started at Bud and Maryland's. And then we started, Val and I would be like, one of us is crying, one of us is consoling the other one. Is this the right decision? We have a child, like, what are we doing?
Sure.
And
yeah.
It's such a mind game. So then we closed for a couple days and we closed for a couple days, and then I'm like, we have to do something. I started donating food, to that point, calling Abby Stern and donating food, and she was coming to pick it up. Then I was like, wait a minute, I just put out 50 half chickens, roasted in to-go containers in, 25 minutes, if you have all the components together. So that kind of sparked this like meal to go. I'll make it and you're going to heat it up at home. So then I get a couple of my chefs together, and right after we closed, we were cryovacking, we were, freezing, preserving, anything we could do, everything. And it is intense. One restaurant is intense, 5 restaurants, 2 of those, groceries included, and Barbuzzo upstairs. So then as we opened for to-go, the name of the game was, we're going through everything on this block. We have a truck, a Pathfinder. I must have drove up and down that street so many times, taking buckets of nuts here and there and whatever. So that was the name of the game. I don't want any money going out unless it has to, and we have to use all this product. It also was like a little bit exciting. I was cooking again. I was on the 2nd floor by myself. They were down up in Maryland's, and I'm doing, a boneless lamb leg roast. And I'm like, and then I felt guilty because I'm actually a little bit excited right now, and I'm feeling, that's what chefs do. You want to take all these products, you want to use them. So it's like an emotional roller coaster.
Right. So was the takeout, how do you even, I can't imagine having 5 restaurants with full dining rooms and then just moving all of that to takeout. Like how much of a knock to your business was it? Like takeout obviously didn't match the level you were doing when you had a full dining room, right? No,
not at all.
Was it sustainable? Like, was it sustaining you in any way, or is it just a Band-Aid over this?
Oh, I mean, there's no profit. I feel like we're all in this container of water, which is money, and we're just bobbing. And then the money goes down, and then you get a little bit up higher, but you're not getting anywhere.
Right, sure.
Yeah. How full your particular tank was when this started, everyone's different. Did you have cash flow? Did you have money saved? And everyone's just bobbing, and a little takeout can bring you up a little bit, but then you have to pay payroll, and then you're like, Phew. And that's how I feel. And I would get excited. In the beginning, Bud and Maryland's was one of the only ones doing to go, and we had really good days, but then I'm like, wait a minute, I have 11 other businesses that are not open right now. So this means nothing. This means nothing in the game of keeping everything afloat. Val and I also decided you have to make decisions, and we said we will not tap into our savings to rescue any of these restaurants because we have we have 2 projects, and we thought those were going to be jeopardized. So we made that decision. So it's a floating game is kind of what we say.
Oh, okay. So how did you guys, when it came to takeout, like you had to sort of recreate how you were cooking. You're not doing the same cooking, obviously. So you have to figure out how to make it work for people reheating things at home. You have to still keep a level of quality because it's still Barbuzzo doing that, or it's still Bud and Maryland's, right? So what was the mentality going into the creation of these menus that are now purely takeout?
In the beginning, we tried to just do takeout, and we got the you-know-what kicked to us.
Sure.
And I was like, wait, this isn't just takeout. You're not just a takeout business. We open up toast and we open up caviar early in the day, and the orders are coming in, and you see this ticket machine, and we have a fish flat, which is like this plastic, rectangle that's catching all these tickets. And we're like, oh my gosh, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. And then you try and put them on a ticket rail, and it's hard to explain to people who have never worked in a restaurant, but you put them, this is 6 o'clock, 6:15, 6:30. This person wants 6:20, and you're just like, oh my gosh. You're like, okay, I have it all organized. And then caviar keeps coming in. So it took us one night at Barbuzzo where, it was a disaster. It was honestly a disaster. It was when customers were still able to come into the restaurant to pick up their food.
Oh, wow.
And it was an embarrassing day. And it's like when you open a restaurant and you are so in the weeds, you don't know how to get out. And I was like,
yeah.
We're going to sit down and we're going to figure this out. And we have the system now. It's just crazy because at 6:30, you might have 30 things fired for a 6:30 pickup. So at 6:10, you need to call out to your line, and you need enough cooks to make all these dishes. Then all these dishes come to you, and you got to pack them crazily. And now you add cocktails to the mix. So it's every step along the way, cocktails. We were so excited, and then we're like, oh my gosh, we need someone who's like, sit there and do cocktails. It's just like,
right.
It's literally insane.
So,
but
yeah.
you figure it out.
Yeah, of course. And that's sort of the name of the game in the restaurant industry always, right? It's
right.
You're right, like you said it. You're in the weeds and you get out of it. There's no other way. You get out of it, right? So, and which is interesting. This leads me to my next question. There's this interesting dynamic in play right now because I'm hired to be a restaurant expert, right? And I don't feel like one right now. I don't feel like I understand restaurants the way I did before. The entire industry is sort of like up in the air from almost a philosophical level. Like it's not the same thing it once was physically, and also it may not be the same thing it once was when we come out of this. So how are you as somebody who's seen the change in Philadelphia since you were part of the major, like you were part of the the major change, the renaissance that happened 2 decades ago. But how are you feeling about Philly and its industry? Is it going to bounce back? What do you think 2021 will look like?
I feel like I'm right back to that point, that time that you're describing 20 years ago on the street. Shops are boarded up. And that's what that street felt like. I feel like we have to just rebuild again. It's you're building your restaurant. You're trying to rebuild a neighborhood. You may be open, but I don't think people understand how many restaurants are not coming back from this.
So the original number was like 30%, but at this point that was 30% was based on doing that for a month.
Right.
Mm-hmm. At this point, I don't know.
Yeah.
That number I'm assuming it's gone up exponentially.
Yeah. And I think there's just restaurants that people don't even know are not coming back, I think it's just right now, if people weren't doing the takeout, and then once restaurateurs realize this isn't going away, this is month 1, now we're into like a month and a half, and now people are doing the to-go. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to pivot, you have to transition with every single little change. Outdoor seating, Friday starts. We are like racking our brains around this because to add now outdoor seating, and we're going to do it with the pickup window, and people can go and find a spot, and we'll have someone come through and sanitize, but there won't be servers at this point. And I just envision this we have a lot of frontage. We are lucky. There are restaurants that don't have an outdoor space. What are they going to do? It's just like every
but yours is also you specifically. You're sort of contained to the sidewalk.
Yes.
Your outdoor spaces are contained to the sidewalk. You don't exactly have like an outdoor patio with which operates like a dining room, right?
No, I happen to have some spaces joined collectively that I own.
Right.
But there's some people who don't have a sidewalk. What are they going to do? And the city is trying to come up with a couple of solutions for that. We've been in talks about that because that's like another little lifeline. It's like we're just giving all these like little lifelines, and some of us can nibble and some of us can't.
Right. I'm not trying to use ThinkFest as a vehicle for reporting on any news, but do you see all of your restaurants surviving this? Do you think you're going to come out of this with all of your restaurants intact?
It's hard to say. Right now we have 4 of them open to go. Habanera just was never a to go.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Never did well on caviar. It's tapas and raciones, like small plates. So we have a pop-up in mind that we're trying to do out of there. And I'm trying to find staff right now. I just started sending out letters of, job offers to come back. Some people are very excited. Some people, I'm getting crickets. It's this thing.
Right. Well, speak to that, because there's a reason why you're probably getting crickets, and it's the fact that the restaurant industry was built incorrectly, so that the people who might come back would be paid not because of you, but just the way the system works. They would be getting paid less than they would if they were, without a job.
Yes.
So there's staffing is, I'm assuming, a huge problem.
It depends. I think there's people who look beyond 6 weeks from now, and when you're not getting that $600 check, you need a job. So if a job is offered to you now, I recommend taking it, because for the first time in I don't know how many years, we're not fighting over people.
Right.
6 weeks from now, that has been the name of this game for I don't know how many years, right? We never have enough staff. So I think people need to just think ahead and make a good decision and for their future, and or just for not even their future, for the next 6 months of their life.
Right.
Yeah.
We're in this position right now where there are no restaurants, or restaurants are sort of the shell they once were, and we're looking into the future, and there's an opportunity here, because I always said that the restaurant industry was always so incredibly flawed. Just from the very base level of it, it's a very flawed system. And for us to fix it, because it's so deeply flawed, for us to fix it, we would have to burn it down and start over. Because I didn't see another way to do that. We were too far gone at that point. This took centuries to build up to what we got to today, and it's a very flawed system. So I always said that we had to burn it down and start over and rebuild it the right way. And I look at it, and the restaurant industry, I don't think the way it was designed and the way we were operating with, I don't think it was designed for the professionalism that I think people started wanting from it. I think people saw like, oh, that's a workforce and it should be professional. But it was never meant to be. It was an industry that sort of welcomed anybody, regardless of their education, their resume, their criminal history. It was sort of like, we need bodies, and we're gonna create beauty with a bunch of people, as many people as we can get into a room, right? And now people are saying we want 401ks, and we want healthcare, and we want all the things that people should rightly want from their jobs, right? It seems like bare minimum, but I don't think we were ever built to have that, because the margins, the way the restaurants work, the margins are too small. So I was wondering, what will it take for the restaurants to return to normalcy? Meaning, like, do we need a straight up vaccine for us to get back to where we were? And then 2, how will we rebuild it? And do you personally think that we're going to revert back to what the old ways were?
I do think I feel like the restaurant industry right now, we're at the mercy of the virus. If it spikes with outdoor seating or indoor 50% capacity seating, we're screwed again. If we have this second wave that, people are talking about, that would also be devastating. So we don't know about this virus. So I feel like we are at the mercy of it. But we have to think positive. I have to think that each little step we're given, we're getting closer to that goal of, being out, sitting close to someone in one of my restaurants that are tighter restaurants, and you feeling that energy. Will it revert back to how it was? I feel like it's a hard question because every restaurant group is different, and some people offer some of those things you spoke of, like 401ks and health insurance, and some don't. The restaurant industry has always been the long hours, the go out drinking afterwards when you're in your 20s. Hopefully you grow out of that in your 30s and 40s. And it often isn't viewed as, for front of house people to be a career choice, unless you're a manager,
right.
To be a server. I try and, with my chefs, be like, you can have a career, you can have a family. I try and do that. I understood that more when we had a child. No doubt about it. Going back into it, we're just taking baby steps, so I don't feel that as an owner, that craziness that I need another cook. I feel like we're able to, when I think about who I want to come back, I think about who was doing the right thing before you needed to do the right thing to be asked back. Those are the things I'm thinking about. But I also want to go back to how it was, just in the,
right.
Not in that sense, but just the bustling and the excitement. And I don't think restaurateurs can afford all of those things. Like you said, with the small margins, we would need some kind of, the government to help. And is that going to happen? I don't think so. So
do you think that you would be able to change, not you personally, but do you think that we would ever get to a place where we could change those margins?
I don't see like the no tipping thing. I just don't see it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Some people, and it's just, I don't know if it's because I'm from a casual restaurant background,
Sure.
that I don't think people will pay for that. I just don't see it. But you said it had to burn down. It burnt down. We'll see what's happening, what's coming back. It sure as hell burnt down. So,
right. I mean, the fear is that it will one day burn down. I mean, nobody saw a pandemic coming, right?
No. Oh my gosh. I used to think, am I crazy to have all these restaurants and businesses on one block? What if one huge national disaster came, but now we're all in it together? And that is just going back to that day of all these restaurateurs, there was just vulnerability. It was like, there's no egos anymore. It's, one person saying, if I don't do this to go, I'm not coming back, it's crazy.
Do you see, I think, so I will say that I think that it takes two to tango here. So that if we want to see better change in the restaurant industry in the future, it has to come from ownership and leadership, right? But on the flip side of that, it also has to come from the diners, and they have to change their entire mentality when it comes to restaurants. I know
it also has to, the employees have to be a part of that too, because if I'm telling a front of house person, you're not going to make this amount of money because now you need to share it with the back of house, I don't know if that's happening.
Right.
There is that whole, just the two make different salaries, or you know what I mean? Not salaries, but like make different amounts of money.
And there's so much. It's so crazy because these weren't conversations before because nobody cared. There was never a media that like reported on these issues before. So this was sort of how it was And then all of a sudden the media started paying attention, which made everybody start paying attention.
Right.
And then, of course, these things that there are injustices that exist in the restaurant industry that exist because they always existed, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have to always exist, right?
Right.
I know that not you, but chefs and restaurateurs and restaurant owners have told me that they believe that one of the bigger issues is that diners are more and more not seeing restaurants as a luxury anymore. It used to be a luxury that people would pay a lot of money for.
Right.
And the more we casualized restaurants, which was an amazing thing, and I fully support a casual restaurant, more so than fine dining for sure. But the more we see that, the more people are less willing to pay good money or pay the right money for their products. So I feel like there's a responsibility on the diners to be willing to pay the money that is required to create a healthier industry, right?
Right.
Like, how do you think, if, let's say, with a flip of the switch, you got diners to understand that the restaurant industry is built of, it's something of a luxury. How would that change your business? Like, if you got people to actually be willing to pay, $80 for the steak that should cost $80, how would that change your restaurant model?
I would still come in clothes that it looks like we're in today. Because when you say like the luxury restaurants, even to me, I feel like I'm personally not, I don't choose to go to those often. It's a special occasion. However, once we used to go, when we go to New York, and if you go into any one of Danny Meyer's restaurants, and it does not matter if I'm dressed like this, you are treated like you are their only customer. And that his hospitality and just how he runs his restaurants is amazing. And I know he was at the forefront of the no tipping model. But I just don't see that happening. I also think diners, a lot of people haven't worked in a restaurant. I can be talking to Val's sister when we're out at a restaurant and she doesn't appreciate a server the way I do. You know what I mean?
Right,
so
right.
How do you expect diners who have never been in that position of working in a restaurant to understand it?
True.
And to understand how hard it is and the hours, I just think some people they just don't understand it,
Yeah. And you understand it on a very intrinsic level because you grew up in restaurants, correct?
My grandfather had a supper club.
It was Bud owned the supper club?
Bud in Maryland had a place called The Spot for 50 years in Wisconsin.
And so you grew up, like, I'm assuming working in them, or were you just around restaurants and food? And
I just would, in the summer times, we would go. I never worked in that particular restaurant.
Okay.
And his son, my uncle, also had, still has kind of a chalet, and it has a bar and a restaurant, but it's Midwestern and it's, meat and potatoes, and his little place is dinery,
I see. So the reason I ask is because I was looking through some old interviews that you had with Philly Mag, and you had mentioned that Harlow is your daughter, right? Her name's
Yes.
Harlow. Yeah. You're like, I'm excited for her to be in a restaurant family because
Yes.
in a restaurant family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have that same sort of excitement for Harlow.
I do. I think it's. So my experience, I was, Harlow's age. We go to Wisconsin. We would always drive right to the supper club. And when I was 5 or 6, I'd run in and I'd hop on a bar stool. And I thought, like, like my grandmother was so excited to see me. Everyone's excited to see me. And I just thought I was like frickin' bee's knees, right? But I enjoyed my grandfather, my aunts and uncles all worked there. And it was just a special place. It was, New Year's Eve, we would go to the restaurant. For any occasion, anyone's birthdays, my great-grandmother, we'd go to the restaurant. So, and there were all the people that were working there, they worked there for years and years and years. It's one of those kinds of restaurants.
Yeah.
So I love that, just run into something. She already knows. She's 18 months old and she knows when you leave. We live at 13th and Arch. She points to go down 13th Street. We're like, this is insane. And she'll point as we're going by. I just think it's, it's just a cool, like, family kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, these are really hard times to be a restaurant owner, a chef, to be in this industry at all. So I really, really, really appreciate you taking the time and sitting down with me and, talking about these really difficult times that you endured and are going to continue to endure. So thank you for sitting down with us. And good luck with all of this.
I'll take all the luck you're throwing my way, Alex.
I trust that we're going to come out of this. I think so.
Yeah. I think people need to support with the takeout and don't just keep ordering from the same one. Choose your favorite neighborhood, choose your favorite restaurant, and then go and try something new and support all of us.
That's right. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.